Okay, Chris Hardwick.
Yes.
We have seen you host everything from At Midnight to Talking Dead, Talking with Chris Hardwick. And now, what brings you to NBC with The Wall? Why did you want to host a huge primetime game show?
I was always a fan of game shows when I was growing up, and I think there's something that was very seductive about doing a big, flashy game show. Because when it's done right, it's amazing, you know, whether if it was, you know, any of the big game shows in the history where it was like Hollywood Squares or, you know, Match Game or Millionaire or Deal or No Deal or whatever. And, but when I'm sort of this really lucky place where I don't have to do anything that I don't want to do because I just, you know, like time is very limited. And so if I work on something, it's because I really wanted to work on it. And they pitched me the idea of The Wall. They'd already kind of built the game, and, you know, the creator, Andrew Glassman, had already partnered with LeBron and Maverick at Spring Hill Entertainment. And so I was kind of the last piece of the puzzle that came in. And I go, oh, I don't know, you know, At Midnight's it's an everyday show. I don't know if I have time to do The Wall, but it sounds fun. And at first I was like, dropping balls down a wall? I don't know. I don't know about that. And they go, I'll tell you what, just come in and play the game, and if you hate it, don't do it. And I go, well, that's fair. So I went in, and I was in their offices, and there was just a projected wall on a screen and with a CG ball dropping down a thing. And instantly I was like a friggin' cat, like, go in the million, go in the, you know, and I was hooked on it. And I thought, you know what, I have to do this. And so the way that we worked it out was, you know, we shoot an entire year's worth of episodes in like 10 days.
Oh, wow.
So I would shoot, the first 2 seasons were shot when I had a week hiatus from At Midnight. So I'd like wrap At Midnight on a Thursday, Friday through, you know, the next following Sunday I would shoot The Wall, and then that next following Monday go back to work on At Midnight. So that's how we were able to squish it in. So now I have a little more time but the problem is we proved that we can do it in like 9 or 10 days.
Uh-oh.
So it's more cost effective to do it that way. I really should have stretched it out. I think I need to do one of these a week, you know, but yeah, so it'll be fun though. We're going back in a few months.
I'm curious, I mean, shooting it that quickly, and you know, you guys are just starting out. Can you talk about finding your footing and kind of finding what the show was going to be
Sure.
in that compressed time?
Yeah. It is. There's always a learning curve, no matter what you think a show's going to be. There's always the final learning curve is when you're actually doing it for real, and it's really just about being flexible and listening to what the show wants. And I've been doing this for so long that I feel like I have a sense of what to look for, or at least what sort of feels right, because there's a little bit of that part of it that feels like an improv game where you're just trying to find what the game of it is. And I realized very quickly that my role on that show was really just to service the contestants and just make them, I need to be whatever they need me to be. So if they need to hug me or high five or throw me around or cry on me or whatever it is, I'm just there to get to know them, almost kind of podcasting them in a way while we play this game. And that's what that show needed. And so but the important thing is not putting yourself before the show. You put the show first, and then you can kind of slide yourself in there underneath. You know, I'll make jokes when it feels appropriate, but I wouldn't destroy a moment so that I could tell a joke, you know? Like, I'm just there to service the show. And every show has a little bit different of a need. I mean, you're forming relationships. It's like, you're still you, but, you know, with one friend you have a certain chemistry, and then a different friend you have a different chemistry, and so that's kind of what it is. You're just sort of forming relationships with these entities that are the shows.
One thing that the Wall does that other game shows don't do is you have a special requirement for the contestant. They have to be, you know, really a special person. Sometimes some of them are heroes in their own lives. Can you talk about that, and how do you find a lot of these contestants?
People apply to be on the show. And if there's a vetting process, and the producers get to know them, and, you know, and also, do they know trivia, and do they know, you know, there's the standard sort of game show elements, but ultimately, you know, and I think this was, LeBron had a lot of influence in this too, is just finding people that it seemed like you've given more than you've taken out of life, so here's a shot at, you know, someone doing something for you. And I think that helps because it really, I've never, people tweet me all the time. They're like, I never thought I would cry at a game show.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you and fuck you for that.
It's the This Is Us of game shows.
Yeah, it's a This Is Us of game show. Well, at least our show gives you a little bit of, This Is Us is just, just crying out all the fluid in your body until you're just an empty corn shell of a husk. But it's really great for the story because it gives you an emotional way into the show. It gives you an emotional element to the show where you actually care about the story of the people rather than, other game shows, you don't really, they're just there to win money. You don't know why, you don't care why. It's like, I just want to see you answer questions, but with this, you really take a journey and the why is a very important question. And so that's really nice. I mean, I think it would be fun in the next season to also, because we've shown like, hey, we've shown that we bring a lot of good people on the show. We should continue to do that. But what about people who, like what defines what's a good person? Like maybe, like I'm a recovering alcoholic. I quit drinking in 2003. If someone didn't give me a chance after that, like you can't just throw people away. Should we maybe have people on who, even if it's not like they opened a community center in their hometown, they've just had struggles and they deserve, like, let's give them a second chance. Let's bring them back into society and say like, hey, you made mistakes, but it's okay. You're human and just, you can do better. And so I think that would be a fun way to give, all sorts of people a shot at winning almost $12 million.
To that point, I'm curious, from this first batch of episodes that you guys did, who were some contestants that were, I guess, highlights for you? People who really touched you in a profound way and who you were really rooting for.
I know it sounds crazy. I really do root for all of them. There was one guy who was a traffic cop, he and his brother, and the older brother was a traffic cop, and he helped put his younger brother through school to get an MBA. And they were both just the sweetest guys. And it just, you can tell that in their own towns, they're just beloved. And they're just dripping with sweetness. And you wanted them to win. And people like that really stick out to me where it's, winning would be great for them, but they're just happy to be alive and happy to be there. And if they don't win, when people don't win, how graceful they handle that. There was a heartbreaking. I took this harder than they did. There was an amazing same-sex couple on, and I think they were from Iowa. And I think part of what they wanted to do was help other same-sex couples adopt, because they were in the process of adopting, and they. The one guy was behind the wall answering trivia, and the other guy was out front. And the guy behind the wall had a rough time with the trivia, so he didn't think he got anything right. The guy out front got some really insanely lucky bounces, and what was left on the wall was like almost $900,000. But the guy behind the wall didn't think he did very well, so he signed the contract. So they left with like 80 or 90 grand, which is a lot of money, but they almost had $900,000. And just knowing what good they were going to do with that, and just knowing what their story was and how wonderful they were. Like these guys help all the elderly people in their neighborhood. They'll do handyman work for them. I wanted them to have that 900 grand so fucking bad. And it was one of those episodes where, and they were totally happy. They were happy. And I was the one who was like, afterwards, I had to tell the producer, I was like, I just need an hour in my room to really process this. Because they should have had that 900 grand. They deserved it. And, and they were fine. Like, they were totally fine. I took it so much harder than they did. But, that is, I think, sort of the magic of the show, is that you get really happy when people win, you get really excited when they're close, and you're really heartbroken, when it doesn't work out as well as you want it to. But what other show, like if you won like 80 or 90 grand on Jeopardy, you're like, I'm a big winner. Right. On our show, it's like, that's great, but you almost, that sort of comparative logic that is unique to humans. I almost had that,
Watching it at home, when the red ball hits the million and they lose $1 million, it's really devastating as a viewer. But what is the feeling like in the room with the live audience?
Oh, it's just like the air got sucked out. Yeah. Because it's like it can change in a second, where it's like, oh my God, I got $1,050,000, and then, boom, I have $50, you know? And it's no one's reaction is exactly the same, but there is that moment where it's like the wind gets knocked out of them a little bit, and then also there's also that sort of shock, because it almost doesn't seem real until that point. You know, it's like, oh my God, let's keep going. Oh my God, I got $1 million. You know, it's like they're excited, but it's not real yet. It becomes very real when they realize, like, and you see it happen on their face where it just drips into their down, seeps into every crevice of their brain. Where they're like, I just had $1 million and I don't have that anymore, and that just went away in a second because of an unlucky bounce or a wrong question, or I bet, you know, I played 3 balls when I should have just played 1, and so that moment is, everyone kind of reacts to it differently, and I'm always just right there to be like, what do you need? And I foolishly asked one woman, like, are you okay? And she was like, no! I'm like, yeah, okay, that was a dumb question. Yeah, you're right. That was a dumb question on my part.
Okay, one last question before
Yes.
we go. You've been around the block at the Emmy Awards. I think you've won 2, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah. I got 2 for at midnight. Got to present last year, so that was really fun.
What would happen? What would it mean to you, I should say, if you get nominated for the Wall for best reality host?
I mean, I would like to pretend like, oh, awards don't. It's nice just to. I mean, of course, that would be amazing. It is it's a validation by people who watch television in your peer group, and it would feel great. I never expected. I legitimately never expected, because the Wall didn't get nominated last year. And I was like, oh yeah, well, why, So I guess I'm just always like overjoyed and pleasantly surprised if things like that happen. But, I also feel like I got a couple Emmys. Like, what kind of a selfish prick would I be if I'm like, I don't have a 3rd one? What is happening? I hope we get nominated, though. I really hope we get nominated. And if we won, I would be, you'd have to scrape me off the ceiling. I'd be completely overjoyed. So, I'll roll with whatever. Secretly, I want it real bad. I want that statue real bad.
Thank you.